My fiancée said she'd only marry me if I earned 6 figures, so I did, and married someone else who loved me when I had nothing. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I used to think love was enough. You know that if you just loved someone hard enough, deep enough, they'd choose you back. I learned the hard way that some people only love you in theory until they can replace you with something shinier. Melissa and I had been dating for almost 2 years when she sat me down one evening at this rooftop restaurant she'd been dying to try. I thought she was going to say she loved me. Instead, over truffle fries and overpriced cocktails, she said, "You're not husband material ... yet." I blinked, stunned. What does that mean? She took a slow sip of her drink, shrugged like it was no big deal, and said, "I want to marry someone who makes 6 figures. I'm not going to lie about that. I was making $38,000 at the time, working tech support at a software company. I'd just paid off my student loans. I was proud of that. I thought she'd be proud too. But instead, I felt like a contestant on some reality show who just got eliminated for not having a trust fund. I'm not saying you're not enough," she added quickly. "I'm just saying, I need stability, ambition, a future." Her words were polished but cold, and I nodded. If Sing 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 Ing nodded, told her I understood. Told her I'd work harder, I told her I'd prove myself. That was the moment I stopped being her boyfriend and started being her project. Looking back, that conversation should have been a wake-up call. Instead, it lit a fire I thought would lead us closer. I didn't know it would burn everything down. And the worst part? I really believed she loved me. After that night, I threw myself into work like a man possessed. I started taking online coding boot camps after hours, even skipped out on weekend hangouts with friends just to grind through JavaScript tutorials and GitHub projects. I convinced myself that if I could just cross the 6-figure line, Melissa would finally see me as enough. She didn't exactly cheer me on, more like monitored me. "How's your portfolio coming?" she'd ask while scrolling through her phone. "You know Brian's boyfriend just got hired at Tesla, right?" There was always a comparison, always a benchmark I hadn't hit yet. "I'm proud of you," she said once, almost like it hurt her to admit it. I clung to those words like oxygen. I replayed them in my head during 3 a.m. debugging sessions, like they were gospel. I remember one night I showed her the prototype of an app I built. It was messy, but functionally a personal budgeting tool I called Bare Bones. I was excited. I thought she'd see the future I was trying to build. She looked at it for 10 seconds, then said, "That's cute, but how's that going to get you a real job?" Something in me cracked a little. Still, I swallowed the bitterness. Told myself she just wanted the best for us, that she had high standards, that love looked different for everyone. And maybe it does. But deep down, I think I knew I was trying to earn something that should have been given freely, because love that comes with conditions. It's just a transaction dressed up as romance, and I was paying interest I couldn't afford the first time. I met Melissa's parents. I wore my best button-down shirt, slacks I couldn't really afford, and borrowed shoes from a friend just to look presentable. I was nervous, but hopeful. I thought, if they see how much I love their daughter, maybe they'll accept me. They didn't. Her dad barely shook my hand, gave me one of those once-overs, like he was appraising a used car. "So, what do you do?" he asked, already unimpressed. "I work in IT support. I'm also studying software engineering at night," I said, trying to sound confident. He chuckled, not laugh-chuckled, the kind that makes your skin crawl. "A lot of people study tech. Doesn't mean they'll get anywhere." Her mom was no better. She asked if I planned to stay in that call center job forever. Said it so casually, like she wasn't stabbing a hole in my chest. Melissa didn't defend me. She just looked down, played with her napkin, and changed the subject. Later that night, I asked her if her parents didn't like me. She shrugged. "They're just protective. They want me with someone who can provide." It was like a knife disguised as a compliment. Provide like I wasn't already giving everything I had, but I smiled through it. I kept showing up. Kept hoping that if I worked harder, they'd come around. That she'd stand up for me. She never did. I was in love with a woman whose silence always sided with the people looking down on me, and I started realizing the only one who thought I was enough was me, and even that belief was starting to slip. A few months later, I overheard something I was never meant to hear. Melissa was on the phone with her best friend Becca. talking in that whisper laugh tone she used when she didn't want me to hear, but also didn't care if I did. I had just come back from a night shift and walked into the hallway as she said, "I mean, he's sweet, but I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. If he blows up, great. If not, whatever." I froze. There was a beat of silence. Then Becca laughed and said, "Girl, you're playing the long game." Melissa giggled. "Exactly. Him being smart? Love doesn't pay the bills." I stood there behind the half-closed bedroom door, clutching a grocery bag with her favorite oat milk inside. I had picked it up on the way home because I knew she was running low. The bag slid from my hand. She heard it and quickly hung up. "Babe, you okay?" I stepped into the room and lied, said I dropped something, smiled like a clown trying to keep his makeup from cracking. I wanted to confront her, to yell, to say, "Am I your boyfriend or your investment strategy?" But I didn't. I just deflated. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're so good to me," and I realized those moments of affection. They were rewards, not love, not connection, just temporary praise to keep the hamster wheel spinning. I wasn't her partner. I was her placeholder. And for the first time, I started wondering, if she was willing to wait for me to become husband material, what was she doing while she waited? Melissa used to light up when we'd spend weekends in our tiny apartment eating takeout and binging shows. That version of her faded fast, once she got a taste of her friends' lifestyle upgrades, suddenly, everything was about appearances. She started saying things like, "We can't keep living like college students." Even though I was juggling night classes and full-time work just to keep us afloat, she started showing me engagement rings on Pinterest that cost more than my yearly rent. I laughed, thinking she was dreaming. She wasn't. When I couldn't afford a group vacation to Mexico, she went without me. "You'll catch the next one," she said, kissing me on the forehead like I was a kid who didn't make the team. Instagram started filling up with photos of poolside cocktails, coordinated outfits with her friends, luxury handbags that I definitely hadn't bought. The captions were full of vague quotes about knowing your worth and manifesting abundance. I wasn't in a single one. I asked her about it once. She said, "Babe, my aesthetic doesn't really match your vibe. My vibe." I stopped asking questions after that instead. I buried myself in work coding late into the night, chasing every freelance gig I could find. I told myself, if I can just break through, she'll come back. She'll remember who we were before all this. But the truth, she didn't want to remember. She wasn't chasing love. She was chasing status, and in her eyes, I wasn't falling behind I had already lost. What killed me wasn't the distance growing between us. It was realizing she wasn't mourning it, because while I was building a future for us, she was already posing for pictures in someone else's world. It started on a Tuesday night at the public library. I had gone there after work to find a quiet place to finish a back-end project for my portfolio. The apartment was too noisy, too tense. Melissa had invited friends over at Jen, and I didn't want to be the buzzkill boyfriend who asked for silence. I tucked myself into a corner table, headphones in, head down until someone tapped my shoulder. "You dropped this," she said, handing me a flash drive I didn't even know had slipped out of my bag. She was wearing an oversized hoodie, no makeup, and these thick-rimmed glasses that made her look more professor than model. Her name was Ava. We ended up chatting for a few minutes, nothing flirty. She was there studying for her teaching credential exams. Something about the conversation just clicked. I didn't feel like I was performing. I wasn't trying to impress her. I was just me. Over the next few weeks, we'd run into each other again and again. It felt accidental, then faded. She always had a warm smile, a nerdy joke, a book recommendation. And not once did she ask what I did for a living. Instead, she asked what made me happy. Barely looked up from her phone and said, "Don't waste too much time there. You're behind on that AWSS." I remember blinking at her, stunned. Ava made me feel seen. Melissa made me feel like I was on a treadmill she controlled. I wasn't cheating, not emotionally, not physically. But for the first time in a long time, I realized I was starving for something more than just approval. It was late. December when Melissa dropped "It the kind of line that doesn't just sting. It echoes." We were out to dinner with her coworkers. All finance types in blazers and watches that cost more than my car. I was quiet most of the night, nursing a soda I could barely justify ordering. On the way home, she was unusually quiet. I asked if something was wrong. She didn't even look at me when she said, "If you're not making six figures by this time next year, I think we need to reevaluate things." Just like that, like we were renegotiating a lease, not a relationship. I tried to keep my voice steady. "So, what's your putting a price tag on us?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "It's not about money, it's about standards. I've waited long enough. You said you were working on it, but we're still in the same apartment, still living paycheck to paycheck." I wanted to scream, not because she was wrong about our financial situation, but because she had no idea how hard I'd been trying. I was on my second certification course. I was freelancing on weekends. I was running myself ragged just to earn my worth in her eyes. But instead of arguing, I just said, "Okay," because something in me snapped quietly, I realized. I wasn't trying to succeed for me anymore. I was racing a clock she'd set, for a prize I wasn't even sure I wanted. I didn't break up with her that night. I still wasn't ready. But I made a decision. If I did hit six figures, I wouldn't be spending it on a ring. 8 months later, I got the offer, $108,000 a year. Remote back-end developer position at a mid-sized fintech company. It felt like winning the lottery after years of clawing my way through side projects, rejection emails, and endless late nights. I didn't cry, though. I just sat there staring at the email, empty, numb. When I told Melissa, her eyes lit up, but not with pride, with validation, like a stock she invested in had finally matured. "I knew you'd get there," she said, looping her arms around me like I was a trophy. "I told Becca you just needed a push. A push." She immediately posted about it on her Instagram stories. "Proud of my man for leveling up. #PowerCouple," as if she'd done the coding. As if she'd been the one sitting in silence, sweating over every technical interview, every live coding challenge. That night, she talked about moving to a high, showed me photos of a $7,000 engagement ring she had bookmarked for when you're ready. She even mentioned we should do a proper couples photo shoot now that we've made it. We dot the next day. I ran into Ava at the library again. I hadn't seen her in weeks. She asked how I was, and when I told her about the new job, she smiled. No theatrics, no clapping or Instagram captions, just, "You earned this. I'm happy for you." That hit deeper than any "we made it" speech ever could, because Melissa cheered for what I became. Ava respected what I endured to get there, and somewhere in that quiet moment, I realized I was finally enough just, not for the person I was with. It happened by accident. Melissa had asked me to help update her resume about applying to a marketing position at a luxury wellness brand. She emailed me the file, but when I opened the document, I noticed something odd. The file was saved under a folder labeled "Backup Just," in case curious. I clicked into it. Inside were screenshots, PDFs of old job offers, and a folder labeled "Convos." I should have stopped. I really should have, but I didn't. The first screenshot was a chat between her and Becca. Melissa had sent a selfie of us at dinner with the caption, "Still playing the long game. Can't ditch him yet, he's almost there." My stomach dropped. Another message said, "Honestly, I don't see a future with him long term, but once he hits six figs, I'm locking it down. Then we'll talk prenups." I scrolled through months of text jokes about me being safe, about my fashion being tragic, about how I'd be a great stepping stone. Husband, like I was some pit stop on our way to a better life. One message from a guy named Alex1, I'd never heard of read. "You still with the tech dude?" Her reply, "Yeah, for now." You know how it is. I sat there, shaking. I wasn't even angry yet. I was humiliated. I felt small, disposable, like a damn utility that night. I sat at our shared dinner table while she babbled on about interior designers and wedding venues. I nodded, smiled, played along. But something inside me shut off for good. She thought she was playing a long game, but I had just decided how it would end. After that night, I became two versions of myself. On the surface, I was still the boyfriend Melissa could flaunt, patient, hardworking, safe. I smiled when she talked about wedding venues. I nodded when she said we should start looking at condos. I even posted a photo of us at brunch with the caption, "Grateful for everything we're building together." But inside, I was cold, detached, studying her like a puzzle I already knew how to solve. She had no idea, I knew that I'd read every text, every shallow comment, every plan she made that didn't include me beyond the deposit on a ring. She thought I was still chasing her approval, still trying to earn a seat at a table where the menu was conditional love. I wasn't. I had started seeing Ava more often. Nothing romantic, just late-night library run-ins and quiet park walks. The kind of conversations where nobody was keeping score. Where I didn't have to be impressive. Just, "Present?" Melissa would ask. "Where have you been?" "Working late," I'd say. She'd pout, then talk about bridal colors and honeymoon hashtags. I wasn't cheating. Not in the way Melissa would understand, but emotionally. I was already gone. I was just waiting, planning, figuring out the cleanest way to disappear, because confronting her, that would give her a stage, a way to twist the narrative, to cry and blame and manipulate. But ghosting would be something she couldn't monetize, and the thought of leaving without a goodbye, it started to feel like the only closure I'd ever get. Melissa's obsession with engagement. Rings had reached a fever pitch. Every scroll through Instagram came with a dramatic sigh. "Look at this one, it's only $12,000, but it's so timeless." She'd angled the phone toward me like we were co-conspirators in some fairy tale. Not like she was dangling a down payment over my head. I decided to test something. I bought a ring. Not the ring, not even close. It was a simple vintage band I found at an antique store for $180. Gold, understated, elegant. The kind of ring someone who loved me would find meaning in. I boxed it up, wrapped it carefully, and waited until a quiet evening. I didn't do some big proposal. I sat across from her at our kitchen table, hands slightly trembling, and said, "I wanted to see how this made you feel." She opened the box. The silence was immediate. Then, "Is this a joke?" I met her eyes. "No, it's real gold. Vintage, thoughtful," she scoffed. "Thoughtful. It looks like something someone's grandmother pawned." "This isn't funny." I said nothing. Just let her words hang there, heavy and sharp. She pushed the box back across the table. "Try again, if you're serious." And in that moment, every last doubt I had evaporated. The texts, the status chasing, the emotional coldness hit, all crystallized into this one reaction. She didn't want me. She wanted a prize. The ring was never meant to be the ring. It was the mirror, and Melissa hated what she saw in it. I left on a Thursday. Melissa was at a bridal expo with her friends trying cake samples, posing with faux bouquets, pretending a future existed between us. I had spent the morning packing the essentials: clothes, laptop, my books, and that cheap vintage ring she couldn't even pretend to appreciate. I didn't leave a long letter, no dramatic confrontation, just a single sheet of paper with 4 words scribbled across the center. I heard everything. Goodbye. I left it on her vanity right next to her printout of luxury wedding venues by the time she got home. I was already gone. Phone number changed. Socials wiped. Lease transferred. Email deactivated. I thought she might call from a blocked number, but she didn't. Instead, the chaos spilled onto social media within hours. She posted a black and white photo of us from months ago with a caption that read, "Imagine building a man from scratch just for him to walk away." Comments poured in: asterisk. "Men are trash. You deserve better." Queen, another one who couldn't handle a real woman. But people also started asking questions. Someone leaked a screenshot of one of her old group texts, the one where she called me a placeholder with potential. That post got deleted real fast. I didn't engage. Didn't explain. Didn't defend myself, because I finally understood something. You don't owe closure to someone who saw you as a transaction. I didn't leave to hurt her. I left to save myself, and for the first time in years, I wasn't chasing approval. I wasn't trying to win. I was just free. The first night in my new place, I slept on the floor with a blanket, a pizza box, and my laptop as a pillow. And it was the best sleep I'd had in years. No criticism waiting in the next room. No mood swings walking on eggshells. No curated version of myself trying to keep someone else's dreams alive. Just quiet. I didn't jump into anything right away. I stayed off social media. Started journaling. Got back to reading fiction. Again, actual stories, not business blogs, about optimizing your life. Ava reached out a few weeks later. She hadn't seen the drama unfold, didn't ask about it either. Just sent a photo of a book I once said I wanted to read, with a note. "This reminded me of you. It's on hold at the library if you want it. It was it. No pressure. No awkward sympathy. Just kindness. We started meeting at a coffee shop near the library slowly, with no labels. She'd tell me about her students. I'd share pieces of code I was proud of. She never once asked what I made, what I drove, or what my 5-year plan looked like. She asked what made me feel alive, and I realized I hadn't been asked that in years. Melissa had loved my ambition, but resented my flaws. Ava saw my bruises and didn't flinch. I didn't know where things with Ava would go. That wasn't the point. The point was, I was finally living without begging for love. And for the first time since I hit 6 figures, I didn't feel like I had to earn my place in someone's life. It wasn't some grand gesture with rose petals and drones and hidden photographers. It was just a quiet Sunday morning. Ava and I had been spending more time together, and somewhere along the way, maybe it turned into, of course, she was curled up on my couch in mismatched socks, reading out loud from a fantasy novel she loved. I wasn't really listening. I was watching her smile between pages, watching how the light caught her eyes. How safe I felt, and I realized I wanted that feeling for the rest of my life, so I stood up, went to my desk, and pulled out the same little ring Melissa once scoffed at, the $180 vintage band. The one Ava had said was beautiful when I showed her during a random conversation about antique jewelry. I didn't say anything dramatic. No, will you marry me? I just handed her a folded piece of paper. Inside, I'd written, I don't have a script or a speech. Just a question. Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you the way you already loved me when I had nothing? She looked up, tears welling. No diamonds, she joked, voice cracking. I grinned. Just me. She said yes. She kissed me before she even touched the ring. That moment barefoot, half-dressed, no makeup. No money involved meant more to me than every fake milestone I ever chased before. Because I wasn't being chosen for my potential, or my paycheck, or my upgrades. I was being chosen for me, and for the first time. That was, funnily enough, it had been about 5 months since I walked out. Ava and I had just gotten back from a weekend trip to the coast. Nothing fancy. Just cheap seafood, paperback novels, and a motel with bad curtains and perfect sunsets. I was happier than I'd ever been, which is probably why life decided to test me. The email came at 2:17 a.m., subject line. Can we talk? It was from Melissa. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. The message was short. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just, I heard you're engaged. I just want to say I'm happy for you. If you ever want to catch up, I'd love to talk. I think we left some things unfinished. Unfinished? I closed the tab, but I didn't delete the message right away. I stared at it like it had a pulse. Like if I clicked on it again, it would rewrite itself into something honest. It never did. When I told Ava about it the next day, she didn't react the way I feared. She just smiled gently and said, You don't owe her a reply. You've already said everything you needed to by leaving. That hit harder than I expected, because part of me had wanted to reply, to say, You lost the best thing that ever happened to you, to remind her that I hit 6 figures, that I'd made it without her. But Ava was right. Sometimes, silence is the loudest closure you'll ever give. And Melissa didn't deserve my final words. She already got too many of them. I used to think success would feel like a finish line, a number on a paycheck, a title on a business card, a moment where people who doubted me would finally shut up and listen. But that's not how it works. Real success is coming home to someone who doesn't care what car you drive, only that you made it home safe. It's eating takeout on a couch you both built from scratch, laughing about nothing. Knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, Melissa taught me what conditional love looked like. Ava taught me what freedom felt like. We had a small wedding in a friend's backyard. Ava wore a dress she bought secondhand for $85. I wore a suit that didn't match, but fit like I'd lived in it for years. The ring still had its little scratch on the band, but she said it made it charmingly imperfect. No designer centerpieces, no luxury venue, just vows we wrote ourselves. Mine ended with, You loved me when I had nothing, and that's why I give you everything, Ava cried. I did 2 dots sometimes. When people ask how I got where I am, they expect a hustle story, a grindset monologue, something flashy. But all I say is this, I worked hard, but I loved harder. And in the end, The one who saw me not my potential, not my future, but me as the one who got everything I had to give. Melissa wanted my wallet. Ava got my heart. And I've never looked back.